The moment in time draws close at hand for the 2017 NBA Draft. And with that being said, it is time for me to give you my final 2017 NBA mock draft, a 2-round edition as promised, and all 60 of those picks are in the description box down below, and a little bit of an NBA draft preview kind of mixed into my topics and my thoughts on this final mock draft. Now, we already know some of the things that have already played out with the Sixers trading up to number 1 and the Celtics peeling back to number 3. So we know Markelle Fultz is going number 1 to the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't think that's a surprise to absolutely no one. So that really for sure locks in that pick, even though Fultz going number 1 to somebody has been a lock probably for a couple of months now. Number 2, it got a little interesting because there was a lot of thought and discussion around the Lakers weren't that enamored with Lonzo Ball. They weren't that impressed with Lonzo Ball. His first workout was so-so. There were concerns about LeVar and his influence. There were concerns about whether Lonzo really had star qualities or not. But over the past couple of days, you had Lonzo come in for a second workout. You started to get the sense that maybe they were warming up to him a little bit. Reportedly, Josh Jackson's workout with the team did not go so well. And then we find out on Tuesday that the Lakers had shipped D'Angelo Russell to the Nets. And there were reasons they did that deal. But ultimately, what that tells us is they cleared Russell out of there. They're drafting Lonzo Ball number 2. So we know the first 2 picks are pretty well locked up, which means the third pick, the Boston Celtics, is where this NBA draft really begins. And they could go a variety of different directions here. It could be Josh Jackson out of Kansas. It could be Jayson Tatum out of Duke. It could be a complete screwball off-the-wall pick as far as we know. And knowing Danny Ainge, it possibly could be. This pick could potentially be packaged for a trade for somebody. That seems unlikely at this moment, but we shall see. In terms of what I think when all is said and done right now, I think the Celtics are leaning towards Jayson Tatum because the one quote you heard from Danny Ainge, if I recall correctly, was that the player they would have taken at number 1 overall, they're confident would be there at number 3. So, to me, I don't feel like they would have said that and have eyes on Josh Jackson because there could have been a chance that the Lakers would have taken him at number 2. Whereas there was really no chance of Philly taking Jayson Tatum at number 1 or the Lakers taking Jayson Tatum at number 2, even if they really like Jayson Tatum. So to me right now, it would seem like the Celtics are locked in on Jayson Tatum at number 3. But it's really, again, that third pick where this draft really begins. We know Fultz is going 1 to the Sixers. We know Ball is going 2 to the Lakers. What's going to happen at pick 3? And just in general, thinking about this draft come Thursday night, how much activity are we going to see? We've already seen a lot of activity. We've seen the D'Angelo Russell trade, the Dwight Howard trade. You know, there could be other maneuverings, other positioning, teams trying to get out of the first round to save some cap space, teams trying to accumulate additional picks like the Lakers to potentially put together a package for Paul George. Is Paul George going to get traded on draft night? Perhaps, not 100% sure, but there's a possibility. Could Jimmy Butler be traded on draft night? I think that is less of a possibility at this point, especially because Jimmy Butler is going to want to sit there and stay in Chicago because he knows he's got a $200 plus Supermax contract coming up after he can opt out very soon. So these guys could be on the move, but very well might not be. And a lot of the conversation about this draft could potentially revolve around the 2018 offseason with the Lakers and the Clippers and teams potentially coming into a bunch of cap space thinking they've got delusions of being able to get Paul George and or LeBron James. They might be able to get both. They might get one. They might get none. You know, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. It'll remain to be seen who it is. So it will be interesting to me to see if we find some teams that are looking to position. You've got some teams with multiple first-round picks, like the Lakers have 3 of them now with that D'Angelo Russell deal. The Portland Trailblazers have 3 of them. So you have teams with multiple first-round picks. Orlando has 2 first-round picks. Could they be looking at some draft and stash options? Could they be looking in an international class, mind you, that isn't that particularly special? Could they be looking at trying to trade those picks off for future picks down the road for getting some veteran help? You know, there's a lot of possibilities here. But kind of back to my mock draft and how things break down. The Phoenix Suns, I think Josh Jackson does make a world of sense for them, and he's a really good fit at number 4. The Suns really, I think, are in an advantageous position here. They really need help at the 3. They really need a small forward. And either Tatum or Jackson's going to be there. So it's almost like a can't lose for them. Where it could get screwy is with as much as they reportedly loved Lonzo Ball and were looking to potentially trade up from 4 to 2 to get him. Does that mean they're not that sold with what they have at the point guard position? Does that mean that a De'Aaron Fox jumps into the mix for them? I'm still going to stick with Josh Jackson for them for now, but I will not be surprised come Thursday night if the Phoenix Suns are drafting a point guard. The Phoenix Suns going with Josh Jackson, though, puts the Sacramento Kings at a great position to be able to get De'Aaron Fox, number 5. I like him a little bit better than Lonzo Ball. Frankly, I like him a little bit better than Markelle Fultz in terms of long-term projections. But you've actually got a kid that it appears like he doesn't mind the thought of going to play in Sacramento. He's actually welcoming the challenge of going to Sacramento. We've heard all these reports about how much Sacramento loves De'Aaron Fox, the reports of them trying to trade 5 and 10 to move up to 2 to make sure that they were able to get him. You know, it's one of these things where the Lakers went in a different direction. It could be beneficial to the Kings because they've got 2 top 10 picks in a good draft that they were able to keep, and they might still be able to get their 5 guy that they thought they might have to trade up to number 2 to get at number 5. If they were able to do that, that's a huge win for the Kings. I really have trouble figuring out, though, what Orlando's going to do. It could be somebody like Jonathan Isaac. It could be Lauri Markkanen. They could decide once and for all that Elfrid Payton sucks, and the quicker they come to that realization, the better. So a point guard like a Dennis Smith Jr., somebody like Ntilikina, somebody along those lines could be in the mix. So I really have no idea. I ended up having them take Jonathan Isaac. I love Isaac's athletic upside and potential. I think his fit is a little bit better in Minnesota. I imagine Thibodeau would love to be able to sink his grips into him and overplay him and not develop him and then run him out of the league in 7 years because the guy's hurt so many damn times. But in this case, the T-Wolves, Lauri Markkanen from Arizona, he makes a lot of sense. Another guy that can help stretch the floor, open up the inside for Karl Anthony Towns. Could play potentially some center when you're playing small ball, play the 4. And you can do a lot of things with him. The Knicks at number 8, I've had Malik Monk, I believe, going there the past couple of times. Who knows what the fuck Phil is doing? I mean, this dude is talking about wanting to trade Porzingis. Why the hell would you be seeking out trading Porzingis? He's the one viable future star you have. He is the building block that you have. Why would you even entertain it? And then the talk of he really loves Lauri Markkanen. I like Markkanen a lot too, but I promise you I'm not nearly as high on Markkanen as I was on Porzingis 2 years ago. Porzingis was a nasty dude. I mean, he was a beast. And to me, you could tell he was going to be a beast. So who knows what the fuck Phil is doing? There's a part of me that says Malik Monk needs to be the pick. He should be the pick and, frankly, has to be the pick, especially if you insist on running the triangle. You need guys that can space the floor, and that is true. But I will say this. From being a Bulls fan in the 90s, so, again, what the hell would I know about Phil Jackson? Everybody always focuses on the triangle, the triangle, the triangle. But first and foremost, Phil Jackson was a defensive-minded head coach. The triangle was Tex Winter's offense. It wasn't Phil Jackson's offense. Phil Jackson was a defensive coach. That's what made the fit of him coaching Jordan and Pippen and then later Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman so tremendous, was because those guys loved to play defense. They were outstanding defenders, and he was a tremendous defensive coach. He absolutely was. So he might look at a guy like Donovan Mitchell, who granted all of 6'3", but has almost a 7-footer's wingspan, as a type of guy that could play on the perimeter. He could defend elite point guards with his length and with his athleticism. He could defend 2 guards even though he's only 6'3". Looking at him as potentially down the road some type of Westbrook type of combo guard. I think that's maybe a bit ambitious. But again, who knows what the hell the Knicks are going to do. The point guard from France would make a world of sense here. Obviously, Malik Monk would make a world of sense here. One of those 2 guys probably should be the pick. And that's why trying to figure this out, I don't know. I had him taking Donovan Mitchell at number 8. Dallas at number 9, getting the point guard from France. That makes a world of sense. That would be a solid pick for them. Sacramento to be able to come back at 10. And yeah, I know you've got Buddy Hield, but is it illegal to have 2 shooters? To be able to get De'Aaron Fox and then pair him with his college teammate Malik Monk. If De'Aaron Fox develops any type of jump shot at all, imagine what you could do with some of these 3-guard alignments. I know Monk, you have concerns about his size and so forth, but the kid can flat out shoot. He's a better pure shooter than Fultz in this draft. He has more upside as a stretch the floor, NBA range 3 type of guy. Malik Monk could be a 20-point-plus per game scorer in this league, especially if he plays with a point guard that can create some opportunities for him. So Sacramento, to be able to sit there at 5 and 10 and get Fox and Monk, they'd have a long way to go. And they're still the Kings, so the organization is still terrible. But, man, you'd have to feel really good about their draft if that's what they ended up with. Why do I have Charlotte taking Luke Kennard at number 11? I don't know. But I also don't know why the hell they would trade for Dwight Howard. I don't know why the hell the Charlotte organization does a lot of the things they do under Michael Jordan's ownership. And knowing that Luke Kennard played at Duke, big-time program in the ACC, Jordan loves that type of stuff, big-name guys from big-name schools, preferably the ACC, and needing a wing player that can knock down some open shots from 3, Kennard seems like a guy that would make a lot of sense for them based off of their philosophy and their approach. Wouldn't be my pick, but again, you could probably say that about a lot of Charlotte's picks over the years. I've got Dennis Smith dropping to number 12. I don't know where he's going to go in this draft. I was even reading one report earlier today talking about the Celtics really love him, and they might try to trade down again and then end up taking him. Who knows what the hell is going to happen with this guy? Somebody's going to drop. This is always the way it goes. We think, well, there's no way this guy drops, and then ultimately somebody drops. There's a part of me that thinks that Dennis Smith is the guy that could potentially drop. If it's not him, it might very well be Malik Monk. One of those guys is going to drop outside of the top 10. Potentially both of them could, because Sacramento could end up falling in love with somebody like a Zach Collins. But with that said, I've got Malik Monk going 10 to Sacramento, Dennis Smith 12 to Detroit. You like the thought of potentially having him long-term replace Reggie Jackson. Is he a great leader? I don't know, but the guy can light it up, and that would be something I think would have to be appealing to Detroit. Denver's in one of these positions at 13. Just take a dude. Zach Collins is there. You can maybe play him at the 4 alongside a Nokic. You got to take the gamble here. At pick 14, Miami. I don't know exactly where Harry Giles is going to fall in the grand scheme of things, because when he did play at Duke this past season, coming off of the injuries, he looked like a shell of himself. He didn't look like a top 5 talent that you thought he would be coming into this past college season. You thought athletically this is a top 5 pick, and then he was terrible. So you look at Miami, though, in this position, with the skill set that Giles has, if he can regain some of that explosiveness, you're getting a top 3, top 5 talent at pick 14. You'd have to be ecstatic about that. If you're Miami, you're close to being in the playoff mix. It's worth a gamble on a guy like him. Jarrett Allen at Portland at 15, a guy that could be kind of a stretch 4, play some 5 as well. For the Bulls at 16, there's just something about guys like Luke Kennard, Justin Jackson, that really stand out to me as guys that the Bulls would potentially eyeball. In this case, since Kennard's already off the board, Justin Jackson would seem to be a guy to me that they would have their eyes on. They took Denzel Valentine last year at pick 14, which I think was a complete surprise because people thought with the knee injury he might go late round 1, and the Bulls ended up taking him at the end of the damn lottery. So with a guy like Jackson, whose mock draft range has been all the way from like 11 to 25, I wouldn't be surprised to see him end up with the Bulls here at 16. In terms of just this draft in general, I look at this draft and, I don't understand why the Sixers traded up for Fultz, because I don't know how he's so much more special than some of the other guys in this draft class to necessitate the move up to 3 to 1. Some of these other teams could end up smelling like roses in this, even though the international class isn't that great, because you've got some real talent here across the board at pretty much every position. And the crazy thing about it is, if you're a team that's in need of a big, you're going to get some really good value in this draft, picking between, I'd say, about 13 to 25. You're going to get some players that probably will end up long-term outplaying their draft position. And while the center position isn't as important as it once was, you still want to have some type of big guy. And if that big guy has some athleticism and he can stretch the floor a little bit and he can be a rim protector, those guys can still have value. And those guys that you would usually in the past spend top 5 picks on, if you could now only have to spend a top 20 or top 25 pick on them, you got to feel pretty good about it, because you're carrying this big man for 3 or 4 years on the rookie contract at a very cap-friendly number. But again, feel free to check out my mock draft in the description box below. I'm looking forward to Thursday night. I think it's going to be fun. It could be a crazy night. And at least this year it helps because this is actually a good draft class. So there you go. Let me know what you expect and what you want your team to do. I'll talk to you after the draft.